And for everybody's safety, to remain seated for me at all times. Even when the truck is completely stopped, that does mean absolutely no standing, keeping all hands, arms, legs, and feet inside the vehicle at all times. For all my guests on board with any little ones, lap sitting is perfectly fine. Just make sure they remain seated in your lap, and also make sure you don't hold your kids up into the air, because this is not the Lion King and you are also not Rafiki. Also make sure to have those cameras and those cell phones out and ready, because I'll try my absolute best to stop for as many animals as I can. I just can't stop for every single one, so just do me a favor at this time. Let's take out those cameras and those cell phones. Also make sure to hold on to them, because if they do fall out of the truck, unfortunately, I cannot stop to retrieve them. If you drop something, just raise your hand. I'll raise mine too, and we'll wave goodbye to it together. I'm just kidding. I'll let the warden know to retrieve that item for you. Just letting you know, it's about a 6-foot drop, so you guys probably aren't going to be receiving that item back in the same one piece you had it before. So I highly recommend you hold on to all those loose articles. Now we are going to be starting off our journey into the Little Italy Forest, home to some of the more shy and reclusive animals. Over here on the right hand side, there's going to be an animal with a reddish brown color on his coat and then white stripes on his hind legs. That animal is called an okapi. Now with those white stripes on its hind legs, it kind of looks like it's wearing zebra pants. So a lot of people think that because of those white stripes, it's related to the zebra, but it's actually not affiliated to the zebra at all. Its only living relative is the giraffe. Now what they have in common with the giraffe is a bone structure inside of their faces and also a prehensile tongue, which just means that they have a pretty long tongue that allows them to grab the leaves off the trees. So their tongue is about 18 inches in length and is actually so long that they can extend it all the way up to their eyes. Now there's going to be a bird we're coming up to over here on the right hand side. It's black and white with red and yellow on its beak. It's going to be over here on the right at the top of the hill. It's called a saddle-billed stork. It does get its name for the saddle shape it has on its beak. And you can also tell the difference between males and females, because males have brown eyes and females have yellow eyes. Now here on the left hand side there, we're coming up to a watering hole where a lot of animals like to gather around throughout the day. But there's going to be one right over here on the left hand side right next to the wall. It's going to be a black rhino. Now black rhinos do weigh about 3,000 pounds. But unfortunately, there's only about 5,000 of them left in the world, and that's because they are hunted for their horns. Now in many cultures, their horns were believed to be used for medicinal purposes, but they actually have no medicinal use or value. So the black rhino's horns are only made out of keratin, which you can also find in your fingernails and your hair. There's going to be some movement that we're coming up to on the left-hand side. They're going to be over here on the hill on the left. There's copper-colored animals. They're called bongos. Now, bongos are also nicknamed the ghosts of the forest, and that's because they're rarely ever seen out in the wild, so it's pretty cool to see them today. Now, bongos do have horns on their heads that are curved towards their backs instead of sticking straight up. And so the reason why they're curved like that is it actually allows them to maneuver their way around the forest without getting the horns caught between any of the tree branches or the bushes. There's going to be another animal that's laying down right over here in the middle. On the left-hand side between the two shrubs is right in front of the bushes. It's called a greater kudu. Light brown colored animal is actually the largest forest antelope in Africa, reaching about 71 inches at the shoulder. You can also tell the difference between males and females, because males are the only ones that have horns on top of their heads. So the one that we just saw right now was a female. Now bongos and greater kudu both have white stripes on their bodies that they use as a form of camouflage, because they kind of mimic the rays of sunlight that shine down from the canopy, which makes it a lot harder for predators to see them during the day, thus making it a lot easier for them to dart away through the forest. Now we're actually darting out of the forest ourselves, heading into a region of Africa with just a little bit more water. Now this region that we're entering is called the Safi River, and it is home to some of the more aquatic animals like hippos and crocodiles. So go ahead and keep your eyes focused on the water. And we may or may not be able to see some hippos, just because these animals do spend a majority of their day in water and can hold their breath underwater for about 7 to 8 minutes. Now they come up for air for about 3 to 4 seconds, but then go immediately right back down. So they're actually pretty impressive animals. Now it looks like over here on the left-hand side, you'll be able to see one right now. Kind of looks like a boulder floating in the water over there. Now hippos are herbivores, so their diets consist of plants, grass, hay, and fruit, so absolutely no meat inside of those diets. They also use a variety of vocalizations to communicate with each other, one of them being a wheesong. Now the louder the wheesong of the hippo, the more dominant they are in the group. There's also going to be these birds on the island in the middle over here, the white ones with the gray feathers. They're called pink-backed pelicans. I know they're not pink right now, but they do get their name for the pink coloration they get on their backs during the mating season. They also have a pretty big wingspan. It's about 9 feet wide. So just to put that into perspective, if you guys look above your heads, that canopy on top of the truck is 9 feet wide from left to right. So pretty ginormous wingspans for those birds. So it's going to be over there. They're kind of hiding over there in the back. It's honestly really cool to see hippo out of water, just because they do spend a majority of their day under. We are about to cross a bridge right now that I do like to call Crocodile Bridge. Oh, if you look over to your left-hand side, down in the water, there's going to be one all the way at the bottom. Now, I do like to call this bridge we're crossing Crocodile Bridge because if you look over to your left, there are going to be some Nile crocodiles. Now, this is an area a lot of people like to stand up, so just make sure you guys remain safe before you back there. I want you guys to notice how some of them have their jaws open when they're out of the water on the day, and also how large and these animals are. Now, Nile crocodiles are the largest crocodilian species in Africa, reaching lengths of about 18 to 20 feet long. They're also ectothermic animals, which means they're cold-blooded, so by keeping their jaws open throughout the day, they're able to regulate their body temperatures. And then with those jaws, they also have a pretty impactful bite. So when they capture their prey, they're able to crush their bones in just one snap. And they're also able to consume about half of their body weight in just one feeding. Now the vegetation is changing, which means we're heading out of the South Feed River, heading into a different area on the reserve. But before we head into that next area, I'm going to point out this pretty big tree over here on the right-hand side of us. Can't really miss it. It's called a baobab tree, also given the nickname the upside-down tree. And that's because at the top of it, as you guys can see, the branches kind of look like roots. Now, I do get asked this question pretty often, why are there no leaves on the branches? And that's because these trees aren't like any normal trees out here. They do remain leafless for about 9 months out of the year, and they're also able to survive a pretty long periods of drought by storing water in their trunks. For this reason, they're also given another nickname, and that's called the Tree of Life. So we are entering my absolute favorite view on the reserve right now, called the Savannah. It's pretty different to the forest we were in earlier, just because this area is a lot more vast and open. And as you guys can see, there's not that many trees or bushes cluttered around where many animals can hide behind. It's also home to some pretty interesting animals and also to some of my absolute favorites, like antelopes, wildebeest, and giraffes. Alright, listening, I do see a couple of different animals over here on the right-hand side. There's going to be a bull-looking one over there. On the right-hand side is called Ankole cattle. They're also nicknamed Wetsusi, and that's because they were the first domesticated animals in Africa by the Wetsusi tribe. As you can see from over here, they do have some pretty large horns. Their horns grow to be up to about 3 to 4 feet tall. And a lot of people think their horns are heavy, but they're actually super lightweight. So the inside of their horns is structured just like a honeycomb, which allows blood to circulate through the honeycomb patterns in those horns, then regulate their body temperatures. So it's kind of like they have their own personal AC units on top of their heads. Oh yeah, I'm going to divert you guys' eyes over here to the left-hand side, because laying down pretty close to us right here where those broken down logs are, those are going to be some African wild dogs. Now these guys are really cute, but you definitely do not want them as house pets. They do have the highest success rate in capturing their prey out of any animal in Africa, about an 89 to 90% success rate in capturing their prey. Now each one is unique in their own way, just like each one of us is unique with their own fingerprints on our fingers. Each one is unique with their own pattern on their coats. And so a lot of people think they're related to the hyena, but they're actually not. The wild dog is related to the canine, and then the hyena is related to the feline. Now over here on the left and right hand side of us, there's going to be these black and gray animals. They're called white-bearded wildebeest. There's also going to be an animal that's laying down behind the white-bearded wildebeest. It has a brown color on his coat. It's called a sable antelope. Now, sable antelopes are also used as a national emblem of the reserve, kind of like our mascot. And that's because they're extremely protective of their species. You'll never see one by itself. It will always be in a group. The darker the color of the sable antelope, the more dominant they are in the group. Now, with the white-bearded wildebeest, they're the most densely packed animals in Africa, traveling in herds of up to about 1.5 million. They're also nicknamed New, G-N-U, because of the sound that they make. So just like a cow goes moo, those animals go new. Something really interesting about the wildebeest is when they sleep at night, they do like to sleep in rows, never too close together, and always facing the same direction. So never facing each other or in opposite directions. Now the reason why they sleep like that is actually more protective than their reason. So just in case there are any predators like lions, hyenas, or cheetahs in the area, the wildebeest are able to get up and run in the same direction without crashing into one another. Now over here on the right hand side, there's a couple more Ankole cattle walking around. The cattle was more used as a sign of wealth. So the more Ankole cattle that the farmer had, the wealthier that the farmer was. And just like we would give somebody a blender or a coffee maker as a wedding gift, the farmers in Africa would give the bride and groom an entire Ankole cattle as their wedding present. So just imagine somebody showing up to your wedding with an Ankole cattle on a leash. That's exactly how they would show up to their wedding. Now there's some small little animals over here. Means jump and buck means antelope. So just like their name, they can jump pretty high and then pretty far. So about 6 feet high and 13 feet far. And so because of their agility, they're used as a mascot for a lot of South African sports teams here in Africa. I actually like to call them the s'mores of Africa because they kind of look like s'mores with a light brown top, then the chocolate color in the middle of the white underbelly. Now, over on in the distance on the right hand side, there's going to be a group of giraffes. Now there's many different species of giraffes in the world, but the ones that I see right now are Maasai giraffes. And what that means is they do have irregular patterns on their coats and then rigid edges on their spots. They can also reach heights of up to about 18 to 20 feet tall. These animals do spend a majority of their day eating, so giraffes dedicate about 20 hours out of their day to eating and then only 30 minutes to sleeping. Now that 30 minutes isn't all at once, it's actually increments throughout the day to equal that 30 minutes, so they like to take power naps, very, very short ones. Now when they do sleep, they rarely ever sleep sitting down just because it takes them a while to get back up because of their pretty long legs. So when they sleep standing up, they're able to drop their necks all the way down to the ground. So by the time we get from this point to where those rocks are right in front of us, a giraffe would have already gone to sleep and then woken right back up.
Wow.
Now these broken down trees we're about to pass right now, where these rocks are a pretty good sign that we're probably entering elephant country. Elephants are one of the only animals strong enough to break down a fully grown rooted tree. Actually, looks like I do see an elephant we're coming up to in just a second. Let's pass these trees and bushes over here on the right hand side. Also, I see some movement on the left. Yep, there's going to be some mandrills. Now, mandrills are monkeys. There's about 4 of them over here. Now, they're the largest monkeys in Africa. Males weighing up to about 100 pounds, and then females weighing up to about 80 pounds. Now, you can also tell the difference between males and females because males have a brightly colored face, and then females have a much darker colored one. And the way they greet each other is actually pretty interesting. They do like to bare their teeth together, kind of like a forced smile. But a pretty cool fact about mandrills is Rafiki in the movie The Lion King was indeed a mandrill. Now, as we continue a little bit further into the reserve, we're going to be coming up to an opening over here on the right-hand side, which will allow you guys to have a better view of that elephant over here. Now, these animals are also one of the heaviest animals in Africa. Males weighing up to about 13 to 14,000 pounds, and then females weighing up to about 10 to 11,000. They do have some pretty large ears, so the African elephant's ears are a lot larger than that of the Asian elephant. That's exactly how you can tell the difference between an African elephant and an Asian one. It's just by the size of those ears. They also like to flap them back and forth throughout the day, which allows blood to circulate through the blood vessels in those ears to then regulate their body temperatures. And they also like to throw mud, dirt, and water on their backs. That'll keep them cool throughout the day as well. And so elephants do eat a lot of food, and in just one single day, an elephant can consume about 300 pounds of food. Now, speaking of food, as we continue our journey further into the reserve, we're actually going to be coming out to some red clavens. Actually, we're going to hang tight here for just a second. I can hear over the radio that there are some giraffes in the middle of the road. So, we're going to have a couple awkward stops here and there. Better rice that they can't get from their normal diets. Speaking of elephants, there's going to be another one over here on the left-hand side, a lot more closer to us than the one before. Unfortunately, the biggest threat to elephants are humans, and that's because humans are hunting these animals for those tusks. These are made out of ivory, but there's also what piano keys are made out of. And just like adult human teeth, once those cells fall out, they don't really go back. That's why it's extremely important to protect these animals, because just like we need our teeth to eat, elephants need those tusks to use them as tools to get all of those nutrients and those minerals. So in just a second, we're going to be coming up to a herd of some more elephants over off in the distance on the left-hand side. Now, another pretty big problem that elephants are facing in Africa is habitat loss through mining for coltan. Coltan is the same substance that's found in your technology, such as your cell phones, cameras, tablets, and laptops. And in Africa, it's mainly only found in one area, and that's exactly where those elephants are living. So a really great way to help out these animals at home is by recycling any of that old technology that you guys don't use anymore. Because as you guys noticed earlier, elephants are pretty large animals, so they really do need a lot of space. And unfortunately, by destroying their habitats, we're actually confining them to share their space with humans. Actually, looks like over here on the left, there's a baby elephant over here. The elephants do have the longest childhood of any animal in Africa. Their childhood spans up to about 13 to 15 years of age. And once they do complete that childhood, they break off from the mother to become either independent by themselves, and typically it's the females that like to become the independent ones, and then the males like to join another group of male elephants called a bachelor. Right here on the right hand side, you're getting a little bit closer view of that Maasai drop. Over here on the side, there's a couple of them. There's also some babies over here. Now I know they don't look like babies, but that's because when they're born, they're already about 6 feet tall. And just an hour after they're born, they're able to start walking with the mother. Something really fascinating about that mother giraffe is when she gives birth, she actually gives birth standing up. So those babies do see about a 6-foot drop when they're born. I've been talking about large animals for a while now. I'm actually going to talk about a little bit smaller ones over here on the left. We're coming up to a group of greater flamingos. Now you will never see a flamingo by itself. It will always be in a group. And a group of flamingos is also called a flamboyance. Something really cool about these animals is when more. They're not actually that pink coloration you see on their feathers right now. Their natural born colors are gray. So their diets consist of brine shrimp, which are high in beta carotene, and then that beta carotene is an enzyme that gives them that pink coloration on their feathers. So the more brine shrimp the flamingo eat, the brighter pink coloration on their feathers that they become. There's a couple more babies over here. Looks like there's a couple more adult giraffes as well. Now, just like the relative the copy that we saw in the forest, giraffes have those ossicones on their heads, which are those two tiny little furry horns, and then that prehensile tongue that allows them to grab the leaves off the trees. Now, if you've ever seen a giraffe's tongue before, it is actually the color purple. And like I said earlier, they do spend a majority of their day eating, so their tongues are exposed to direct sunlight. The reason why their tongues are that pigmented purple coloration is it enables their tongues to not get sunburned throughout the day when they're eating. And we are going to transition into the second part of the savannah right now. A little more densely packed with trees and bushes, kind of like the forest we were in earlier when we first started our journey together. It's actually home to some of my favorite animals, and they're going to be over here on the left-hand side. Once we go around the corner, you'll actually get a little bit better view of them. Now, they are going to be white rhinos. If you look over to your left and then back, you'll be able to see them right now. But once you go around the corner, you'll be able to see a straight shot of them from the left. Now, they can reach speeds up to about 35 miles per hour, but they can only see about 15 feet in front of them. So if you combine poor eyesight with fast speed, it may or may not be the reason why a group of them is called a crash. They also have some pretty sensitive skin. We're actually going to come up to the mud bass over here on the left-hand side in just a second. Their skin is very prone to the UV rays of the sunlight and to a lot of parasites and bacteria. So just like we use sunblock to protect our skin, white rhinos like to roll around in mud to protect theirs. Not only does it protect their skin for those items I just mentioned, it also acts as a cooling agent. So by rolling around in that mud, it allows them to keep their body temperatures cool throughout the day as well. Like I said, they can only see about 15 feet in front of them, so they really don't rely on sight or smell to maneuver their way around. They mainly rely on hearing. White rhinos are one of the only animals in Africa that are able to swivel their ears almost all the way around their heads. Now, as we keep going, I did see some movement over here on the left-hand side. I see them right now. Once we go around this corner, you'll be able to see that there's two of them. Now, they're laying down right in the grass over there. These are going to be cheetahs. Now, cheetahs are the fastest mammals in Africa, typically reaching speeds up to about 60 miles per hour. Now, the reason why I say typically is because if they try hard enough, they can actually push that speed to reach up to about 70 to 75 miles per hour. They do go from 0 to 60 in just about 3 seconds. There's also going to be a couple more cheetahs if you look over in the second yard on the far right-hand side, all the way up on the right. There's two laying down together. Now, even though they are the fastest, they can't hold that speed for very long just because they get tired pretty quickly. So they can only hold it for about 30 seconds to a minute. And they also like to use their tails as a sort of rudder, which allows them to change direction when they start running after their prey. And this is where larger predators like lions like to use as an advantage point to overlook the savanna to scout the area for the nearby prey. It's actually really, really beneficial to those lions because the lions can see the prey, but the prey cannot see the lion. These animals are pretty inactive during the day though. They actually sleep for about 18 to 20 hours out of their day and are only active for about 4 hours. And that's typically at night when the sun goes down. Now it does look like I do see a couple lions. They're up there. Looks like there's a male and a female up there. Pretty easy to tell the difference between males and females because males do have that big, beautiful mane that's around their necks. Actually, looks like there's two females. The male's laying down right in the middle of them. Something really fascinating about that mane around that male lion's neck is it actually weighs about 40 pounds. Now, during the day, their eyesight is just about the same as ours. They can see about 6 times more than us once the sun goes down. And when these animals hunt for the food, it's always the females hunt for the food, it's never the males. So the males always have to stay back to protect the pride and any comes in the group. And like I said, these animals are pretty inactive during the day, a lot more active at night. Now, when they're active at night, they do roar pretty frequently. So that lion's roar is actually so loud that it can be heard from about 4 to 5 miles away. Now, looks like as we continue our journey further into the reserve, we're going to be coming up to some warthog burrows over here on the left. Warthogs are the largest burrowing animals in Africa, reaching speeds up to about 30 miles per hour. So when they sleep in their burrows, they actually like to back into them with their faces sticking out. So just in case there are any predators in the area, they're able to defend themselves. Now, I don't see any warthogs over here on the left-hand side, but what I do see over here on the right-hand side is an ostrich laying down. So there's one laying down over here, and then two walking around over there. Now, there's also going to be a Bonzabak, which is that antelope-looking animal that's standing up back there. And speaking of ostriches, there's also going to be some ostrich eggs on the ground on the right as well. Now, ostriches do have the largest eggs of any animal in Africa. So each individual egg weighs about 3 pounds each, so the equivalent of 2 dozen chicken eggs. Something really impressive about those eggs is they're actually so strong that if man were to stand on them, they would not be able to break. They do have an extremely hard outer shell to them. Now with those ostriches, they are the largest and fastest birds in Africa, reaching speeds of up to about 40 miles per hour. They also have some pretty large wings, but ostriches don't use those wings to fly. I think it'd be pretty terrifying to see an ostrich fly. They do like to use their wings to run. They like to open them up nice and big to allow them to change direction when they start running. Now the ones that we did see are females. You can tell the difference between males and females because males have pitch black feathers and then females have a dull gray colored feathers. The top of the hill is called the scimitar horned oryx. Pretty fancy name for this animal is actually where the myth and the legend of the unicorn started. Now here's why. The scimitar horned oryx has 2 horns on his head, but they are symmetrical to each other. So when farmers in Africa were looking at this animal from one side in the forest, it looked like it only had 1 horn on top of its head. Now they can also go about 9 months without drinking water, and that's because they get the moisture from the food that they eat. And then they only sweat once their body temperatures reach about 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So really, really pleasant animals. So we did see some pretty cool animals today, guys. I hope you guys saw some of your favorites. There was a lot of awesome animal activity out there on the reserve. Now, a really great way to help out these animals at home is by learning more about conservation efforts. Now, one of those efforts is as simple as recycling. Now, you guys can recycle any paper, plastic, or old technology that you guys don't use at home anymore to help animals like the African elephants, the rhinos, the lions, the scimitar horned oryx, or any of the other animals we're able to see on the reserve today. Also, if you guys want to check out some more animals that aren't here on the reserve, but they are here in Africa and Harambe, there's also Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail. So it's right next door to us. It is a self-guided walking tour that typically takes people about 15 to 20 minutes to walk through. They have animals like gorillas, zebras, meerkats, naked mole rats, a bird aviary, and also about several months ago there was a baby gorilla born, and her name is Grace.
The baby looks like it's over there. Right over here. Yeah. Another one.